Have a good meeting.
Thank you very much. And welcome everyone to a Foxboro Conservation Commission meeting Monday, February 1st, 2021. This meeting is a full virtual meeting as permitted by Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 emergency order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The meeting will be held via Zoom, televised on Foxboro Cable Access, channels 22/38, and streamed on Foxboro Cable org live. A live link for the Zoom meeting can be found on the commission's page. And welcome. So I'll call the meeting to order. And do we have any public comments? If not, before 7:05, Jim, do you have any minutes you want to review? And I seem to have lost everybody.
You have it on speaker view or the gallery
Well,
view?
now then you're up, but there for a minute, it was just, oh, okay, I've got to hit that little button in the, all right. Is Jim on? Jim Marsh?
I don't see him yet.
Okay. So it's not quite 7:05. Can I be like Garrett Spillane used to say, and it is now 7:05 p.m. Jane, would you like to read the notice, please?
Sure. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, February 1st, 2021 at 7:05 in the Gala Meeting Room.
Yeah, via Zoom.
On a request for determination of applicability filed by Carol and Martin Bean for the clearing of overgrown brush at 199 South Street in Foxborough within 100 feet of a wetland resource area, the Foundry Pond. The application is available for public inspection, blah, 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 that's passed. This notice can also be found at the Mass Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Okay, who is there? Is it Carol or Martin?
No, Carol.
Okay. Would you like to tell us what you'd like to do?
I want to clean it up. I just don't know what we can do. So I'm just looking for guidance from you guys.
Okay. Who else was able to go out to visit the site besides myself?
I had 2 people here today.
Okay.
Yeah, I went.
Judy
Johnson.
Judy.
Yep.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, Judy, what do you think?
Well, the area slopes down quickly to wetland that is adjacent to Foundry Pond. However, the vegetation that is in the wetland, and there's other shrubs and stuff around the yard, there's a lot of multiflora rose. And also there's some shrub out there. I don't know, Jane, if you were able to identify it, but I think it might be like an autumn olive. It's got a green stem. I've seen them on the power lines, and I haven't been able to figure out what it is. But anyways, the point being,
There are a bunch of invasives.
There's a lot of invasives in there. So what I was suggesting is that the homeowner get with some type of restoration specialist and identify the invasive species in that area. And then if any shrubs were taken out, they could be replaced with some kind of lower growing native shrub. There's a view shed situation here too. They want to be able to see the pond. So some of this stuff is growing up really high. And so I think that we could do an enhancement type of project there that would be beneficial to the wetland and also to the homeowners.
Okay, I was out there as well, and it drops right off into the wetlands. So
Correct.
it would have to be very selective clearing.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's why I say they'd have to contract with some type of restoration specialist.
okay.
Yeah, to do this. So,
And flag it and then let us verify before they start.
correct. And, the
Okay.
methodologies and stuff. So, I mean, that just being out there today and looking around, that was what came to mind.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
Anybody else?
somebody else had an
Okay.
opportunity.
Anybody else have an opinion?
Yeah, I was out there today too. And I'd agree with Judy. It's pretty well disturbed. If it's done right, it could be an improvement to the whole thing.
All right. Jane, any comments? Jane?
Regarding the wanting to be able to see the pond,
Yeah,
they could do vista pruning of the view, not necessarily
No,
cutting everything
not
out.
really. There's too much wetlands there. They really can't, without getting into the wetlands, they can't do anything. Because right off the back of their lawn area, it drops right down into the wetlands.
So they could not, I didn't get out there, I'm sorry. I was
Okay.
going to go, I was gonna go today. They couldn't get out and just cut branches and things like that, even if they're by hand?
No,
No.
the stuff in the understory is a lot of multiflora rose that has overtaken down, within the wetland area or along the boundary. There are some natives in there. There's some silky dogwood. But the vista pruning, they're already up high. So vista pruning might be something that they could do as well. But the shrubs, some of the shrubs they've just grown too tall. So they wouldn't be able to get in there, just whack everything down, just like say 5 feet or something.
It would never be that easy. No, there's too much of it too.
Well, it's a lot of multiflora rose, which is very prickly. And so I think getting rid of the multiflora rose and replacing it with some type of wetland shrubs that are lower growing. I mean, the thing about invasive species and, for the homeowners perspective, this is going to be something you're going to probably have to address on an annual basis with your contractor to come back, because they're insidious species and it's very hard to eradicate them. So you might have to have somebody come back in periodically to kind of assess the situation and maybe have to, do some additional work in there to keep it, and then hopefully over time you'll have some nice native community that will be beneficial to.
So Judy,
Yeah,
Judy, the only problem with that is this permittable under a request for determination?
no,
I don't think so. I
Good.
wouldn't think so.
Yeah, because
It's much
not
too
an easy.
complicated.
yeah, no, this is working in a wetland. This is taking out shrubs, either cutting and herbiciding and then planting or removing them. Personally, I think cutting them and pasting and spraying with glyphosate might be the best way to go. Less disturbance for the soils, and then planting.
That's-
The, what is it? The olive, that is very, very difficult to get rid of, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it sounds like they all are. And they
If-
come, that's what happens when an area is cleared out and then the invasives grow in.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, the multiflora rose is particularly insidious plant.
Oh, yeah.
I found out you can eat autumn olives today, so.
oh, you can.
You can eat the
Yeah, now
berries.
they're trying to, all these invasive species, they're trying to find a beneficial use.
Oh,
So that
You can eat the
people-
berries. I've had jelly before from it.
All
Huh?
right, well, there's a plus.
If that's what it is, I'm really stumped by this one plant. I would like to get your help on this, Jane.
All right.
Yeah.
so, long story short, I think we're gonna have to issue a positive determination. Do you agree, Judy, since you were out there?
Yes, I didn't explain the process, but
Okay.
yes, a request for determination is not going to apply here because it's really too much work. And you're working right in the wetlands. So,
Carol,
what
do you?
That's what I was told to file.
Yes.
yeah, that's
obviously.
just the start. Yeah.
You spoke to
If-
me and I
Yeah.
explained
Mhm.
that you can't do it without some kind of a filing. And the first step would be a request for determination, which gets us out there to look at it. And then we see how extensive it is and then what you would need to do. Did you download the information on our website? Did you look at our website like I
I looked at it
suggested?
after I talked to you, but that was back at the beginning of December. I'm a little late here.
All right. All right, Rich, do you agree that it's a positive determination?
Yes, I would agree. Yeah,
Okay,
there's a lot of work out there and it is all in the wetlands and
yeah,
also
right.
different depressions there.
all right. Carol,
So
we'd be happy to work with you.
Okay.
on, But it's going to require a little bit more work on your part and so that we can have a handle on exactly what's going on. So if somebody would like to make a motion for a positive determination,
Before
or any
that, Bob,
any other
Carol had
okay. What's
sorry.
that, Judy?
Yeah, Carol had already been in touch with some kind of specialist.
No,
Okay.
I don't know if it was a specialist. It was just a landscape
Okay.
person. I'm not sure if it was a specialist. I might need somebody who's more specialized than him now that I've talked to you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. But they had mentioned that, Carol needed to come before the commission. So I thought that was good. Whoever the landscaper was steered her in the right direction.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
So, okay. I'm sorry for the interruption.
that's all right. No problem. Dave, any comments?
No.
Okay. Is anybody else, just the four of us on so far?
Peter's here.
It is there.
Oh, Peter. Okay, sorry. Okay.
No worries. No, I mean, I didn't get a chance to get out and visit the site, but it sounds pretty clear cut from what Judy and Rich described.
Yeah. All right. Not being able to see you, I can't remember who's on, who isn't. Sorry about that. So, Judy, would you like to make a motion?
Make a
Rich?
motion for a positive determination for the request for determination for,
199 South Street.
199 South Street.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor, and I guess I have to poll everyone. So, Rich, go ahead.
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Peter,
I,
and myself. It's complete. All right. Thank you. And Carol, again, we will be happy to work with you and get some more information out to you for the other paperwork.
That'd be great. As I said, we're just happy to work with you and do whatever, we have to do, not, we have no immediate plans. We just like to clean it up because it looks like a bit of a jungle.
Yes, I agree with you on that 100%. But
Okay.
unfortunately, working in the wetlands, you do have to file a notice. So,
Understood. And then we're happy to do whatever we need to.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye now. It being 7:10 p.m., we have a continuation of a notice of intent, file 157602 for 14 Alice Bradley Lane. Rich, are you there?
I am here.
All right.
So I'm Rich Leslie with Bay Colony Group, representing Sal and Gretchen Napoli. The big thing that came out of last Monday's meeting, or one of the big questions, was an interpretation of the conservation restriction and what is allowed in the 50-foot and really what's allowed in the 100-foot. And what I did was I contacted attorney Frank Splain, as Frank was actually the attorney that worked with Christopher Stillback back in 1995 and was also working with the town and is the person that drafted that conservation restriction. I asked him, he's not representing my client. I asked him as a favor to come up here and to speak to the intent of it, to maybe clear up this misinterpretation. And I believe I already started paying that favor back, as I was his personal chauffeur to the meeting and then home tonight afterwards. So I'm going to pass this over to Frank.
Okay, drive safely.
Good evening. When Rich contacted me last week with the question with regard to the wording, I knew right away that it's two separate statements. One is swimming pools and one is structures no greater than 200 square feet. Now, it was a number of years ago, so you may ask why I remember it so clearly. At the time that town was purchasing one of the lots from Mr. Stillback, at the same time, the water and sewer commissioners were the ones that brought forward the idea of restrictions within 100 feet of the water. And I actually have a letter dated November 28th, 1995 from then town council, Richard Gellerman, on behalf of the water and sewer commissioners, putting forward a list of proposed restrictions. And in that, they wanted to eliminate swimming pools and all structures within the 100 feet. Through that, we started talking with both Mr. Gelman and a lot of sewer commissioners, with what would we be more comfortable with. One of the things that first came up was swimming pools. We thought people were going to be paying so much for these houses that they would want structures and swimming pools to be able to use within their backyards, which go up to the water. So when this was put together, we put the restrictions together initially, but it was back and forth between town council and the water and sewer commissioners. I can't remember if the conservation really was involved that much, but it was more the water and sewer commissioners at the time, and came up with these two 50-foot and 100-foot restrictions. And it was specifically excluded both swimming pools and at the time I was thinking some type of cabana or something like that, but other structures. We limited it to 200 square feet because back then, and I have a copy of the 1995 zoning book. And again, residential accessory uses and structures, gross area of residential storage structures shall not exceed 200 square feet. So we use that restriction as a guideline for limiting it to 200 structures no greater than 200 feet. So again, it's two separate items. One is swimming pools are allowed, and also structures no greater than 200 square feet. And I hope that clarifies that. Is there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Don't everybody speak at once? Am I the only one on, or?
I don't have any questions. That cleared it up for me.
Okay, thank you.
Same.
I'm all set.
David? Okay, Rich, okay. David, you're the deeds expert.
Not really.
Uh,
That's a little bit clearer, but does it mean that any swimming pool over 200 square feet is not allowed?
No, it's any swimming pool is allowed of whatever size that's allowed under regular zoning and conservation restrictions that are normal, and structures no greater than 200 square feet. So there's no size limit within swimming pools except what is normally allowed under zoning and other conservation and other town restrictions. So there's no restrictions on swimming pool size, but other structures could be no greater than 200 square feet.
Frank, structures being like sheds and stuff like that, or all that brick work, pavement work?
That's residential.
Just a structure. It doesn't include pavement or anything like that, because you have a pool, but also typically around a pool, you also have, you know, either concrete or stone or something like that. So
Right.
just a structure itself.
Okay.
All right, anything else regarding the swimming pool or structures or the conservation restriction, I should say? All right, Rich, would you like to put up the plan and go over the changes that you made on that?
Okay, yes, I would. Okay.
Hey, Bob.
Yes,
Actually, I don't, is Frank going, or is he? I had a question on the openness and the fencing that's going up.
no, Frank is going to be there until Rich takes him home, so.
Okay. In case that question comes up. Okay.
And we can revisit we'll revisit the fence area. All right, so let me try to get this, share the screen here. Did that work?
Yep. It
Okay. All right.
works for me. I don't know if everybody else.
Can you see this? Can anyone see that, the plan?
Yes, we can.
Oh,
Yes.
all right.
Okay.
So I apologize. We realized after last week's meeting that the most recent plans, the commission wasn't seeing the most recent plans. And so, David, when you were asking about, for instance, when you were asking about where the septic system is, I added that for you. I told you it was in the front. You can see here's the septic system right here. And you were also questioning about the impervious. If you could try to zoom. Can't get rid of this box. But I added note number 8 on this plan. And what it is it's a breakdown of the impervious with the what's allowed. It's basically it's 15% of the lot area or 2,500 square feet, whichever is greater. For our lot, it's 9,917. And then we currently has 9,016 square feet. Add in the proposed impervious area of 2,145 square feet, and then subtract out the recharge area, which I'll show you on another plan, which gets us down to 918 square feet, which is underneath our 15% But even that number, if I can pull up another plan quickly, even that number is a little bit probably better than that, because if you could see this plan, David, here is the recharge drain, and you should all have these plans. It's a trench drain going around the entire paved area. It's grabbing all of that, even in the bottom. And it's also picking up this roof drain and tying this roof drain, all of it into a 500-gallon dry well. It's so when I say it's even, our impervious even less than 918 is, there's really no way for me to calculate, what's coming off of this one roof drain. The roof is various pitches all over the place, but it's certainly picking up more than not, if it was just flowing out. I'd really like to quickly, while we're on this page right here, this is the area that it's currently grass. We know that grass and lawns are not allowed in the 50-foot conservation restriction area. So this is the area that we're replicating. What we've done is we've added a replication table right at the top here, what we're going to plant. And I talked with the landscape architect, Ivy Studios. He wanted to make sure to say that after the plantings, no mulch would be put down, that the vegetation would be able to restore naturally in that area. So let me drop this down. So that was, David, did I answer your question with regards to the impervious?
Yes.
All right, let me, the next one I want to pull up is, all right, so now we go back to this is our building permit plan or our site plan. I made these lines in red so we could, you could
Not
see
showing
that.
it.
Oh, I'm
Rich,
sorry, did I not share it again?
We're seeing your file.
Yeah,
Was-
you're seeing your files, Rich. You got to click on something.
All right,
Fenso 2, I would assume.
no, I wanted this one right here. You're not seeing that though?
Nope.
Share up there on the red button.
Go on the bottom, maybe.
That's a stop share.
Oh,
Let me try it again. All right. So let me, here we go.
there you go.
How's that? We back?
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
Better.
So we made these easier because I got it was hard to see. We made the 100-foot red and also the 50-foot conservation red. And as you can see, we on top of it here is where we have the erosion control. The other comment that was thrown out last week was we had proposed to expand the lawn basically from this entire area, from the existing lawn to the 50-foot conservation restriction. Jane had requested or suggested she called it a ridge, but if we picked up this contour, which is the 283 contour, where we consider, just doing that. So that way we don't have any downgrading erosion going towards the reservoir, towards the 50-foot. So that was another change that we made based on last week's meeting. So what we were proposing in this area was a 3,980 square foot expansion. We're now down to 2,236, which is roughly 50% less lawn expansion than we had talked about. And more significantly than that, I guess, is we were going to take out 7 trees, and now we're down to 3 trees. I've never really, there's a little 12-inch tree. I flagged it if anybody went out and saw that. I flagged that tree, the 8-inch, and there's 218 right here. But the 12 inches on the line, so I've never carried it in my calculation. So basically we've gone from taking out 7 to taking out 3. And when I talk about trees, I'm talking about diameters of 8 inches and greater. I understand there's some 2s and some 3s and 4s around here. And I'm also talking about trees between the 50-foot and the 100-foot conservation restriction areas. So that was addressing what Jane's comments were. And if you all notice right here, here and above it are always referencing back to the plans done by Ivy Studios. I did the same thing over here, David. I added this note that talks about the drainage and the recharge. And the purpose is they were the landscape architects. They developed all these plans. They've been working hand in hand with a pool company. There's 9 sheets to their plan. I forwarded the whole set. And so it's too much to try to bring in and put it on our sheet. It just gets too crowded. So I have notes specifically which sheet to go for what details. So I'm going to leave this up here for a second and talk, but this is where we were proposing the 6-foot fence. It was gonna attach to the 4-foot aluminum fence, run down 1 foot inside of the property line down to this iron rod, which ends before the current wood boardwalk there. The extension of the fence into the 50-foot conservation restriction area is about 40 feet. It's about 40 feet of fencing. I know, Judy, you were not happy with the 6-foot solid stockade fence going into that area. And the neighbor had also voiced his concerns about a 6-foot wood privacy fence. So what we've done is we've scrapped the we scrapped the 6-foot fence, and we're going to use the same fencing, which is our cedar post with wire mesh fencing that we're using all along the conservation restriction area and then back into the house over here. And if I could pull that one up for you. Can you see that? Can you see
Yes.
that fencing?
Yep.
So that's the fencing, Judy. It's an open mesh fence. I mean, it's a mesh fence. It's black. It'll blend right in. You can see they've used this on a project that was environmentally sensitive. And we also have the note that the bottom of the fence needs to be 6 inches above the existing grade to allow for turtles to pass. So I think we've addressed the concerns that I heard from last week's meeting. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
I think
would
that
say the fence looks good to me. That change. I didn't know what it looked like because there was no detail of it in your plan, your updated plan. The fence detail was empty.
Yeah, I understand. It was, again, there was my bad in passing the information forward. It didn't all get to you, and that was my fault.
Okay, but the picture is good, so.
any other comments from the board? Jane, you happy with it?
Looks good to me. We did talk about it some more. The only thing that I'd like to do is get a list of the dates of the most recent plan and the specifics that I'm all confused at this point. I know Rich, you brought something in today. I don't know if I have it in my files. So if you could send just a list of the most up-to-date stuff, that would really help.
I sent those to Diana this morning, and I dropped off hard copies. So,
I know I saw you, but I'm not sure if I have the right ones in my hot little hands or not right now.
okay, well, I will resend them to Diana, but it's exactly.
That shouldn't be, well, okay, whatever.
I stamped the ones that came today, Jane, with today's date.
There you
All
go.
right, did you give them to me, Diana? Because I don't remember having
Yes,
it.
I gave them to you. I gave
All
a
right,
set
so
to
maybe
Bob
they're-
and a set to you.
They're probably in my pile someplace.
Okay, if not, I've got them here in my file, so I'll save them for you.
Okay.
All right, any other comments?
I just wanted to know if is the neighbor happy with the revised fence? It looks like you've changed
Yeah,
it.
yeah, the fence looks great. I just want to make sure it's the same height as what he's going to have in the front of his house and the other side, just so it's consistent. That would be important to me. And also that, just want to be clear that the fence is not going to extend past the 50-foot marker. Bob came over to the house on Saturday. We talked about that. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
We had the fence is a 4-foot high fence as depicted on the plan. It's what the detail we showed. As far as, we've always proposed that fence going exactly where it is down to that point that's about 38, 40 feet into the 50-foot conservation. It ends up being about 11 feet. I think it's 11 feet plus or minus from the boardwalk, from the edge of the boardwalk. Not the problem, but the concern last week with the fence raised was that it was a solid 6-foot privacy fence, and that was the problem that Judy had. She did not want that. She was adamant about that, and that's why we made the change to continue with that less intrusive, I guess you'd say, fencing.
Rich, it's not going that far into the conservation area, because if it was going 40 feet in, that would only leave 10 feet to the water line. There's more distance.
Well, the conservation restriction, that area was from the original wetland line back in '95. If you look at that plan, let me try this again.
I did find it, by the way.
Did I do it again? Did I do it wrong again? Hold on a second. All right, share screen. There. Can we see that?
Yep.
All right, so this has always been here. There's an iron rod here on the ground. In the distance from that iron rod to one, it's about 38 feet. It's probably about 40. The wetlands, remember, this was like 50 feet for the wetlands, so it's rapid in here. That's the purpose of this boardwalk, was to span that area of wetlands, because it cut in, so they could get, meaning Mr. Ames next door, could get across there to the dry land to his dock, which erroneously I had it, and it was previous location was right here. Its permitted location back in 2005, when we did the filing for them, was on this side. It was on the northerly side of the property line. It's my understanding that that dock has been moved back to the northerly side, and I have it relocated, which is why I'm not showing it. But yeah, so that was the purpose. There's the old wetland line came in right here. This is the edge of it was the edge of the Ponce Brezzo back in 1995 when we located it, or I'm sorry, December of 1994.
Okay, that's what's kind of got me confused, because I was counting the 50 feet from way down at the point of the property line where it meets the water.
Yeah, that's so from this iron rod here,
yeah,
to where we found some solid ground to set another iron rod is 80 feet. So
okay, that's what was confusing to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
because
then
that's
you can
more
see
than
it extends to the edge of the water.
Yeah, okay. Because that was the confusing part to me. I thought that was out of the 50-foot, because I know that's greater distance, but so that's my bad. I was confused on that. So
can you put that back up, Rich?
Sure, let me try.
I know you're dying to get off of that, but
there you go.
So there's plenty of space for animals to go around that fence then.
The animals can go the same way the people go.
yes.
The animals will go just like the people go out there. They're going to go right around it.
No,
Yeah. Okay.
no, that's not what's happening. There's a full body of water that cuts across right where that walkway, which is about probably 25 feet, is all water. It's all water, Rich, and you know it. And there's a no-cut zone from the high water mark, which is on my side of the rampway, which is why we can't take down any trees or any of that stuff. Bob, you came down with me. You saw all the animal tracks down there. My concern, guys, is it's, you know, the intent of the grant, the intent of the conservation restriction was to preserve in predominantly its present natural condition, to act as a buffer for the DuPont Reservoir. And then it goes on to say, according to Massachusetts laws, it's intended to ensure that the restricted land will be retained in perpetuity in its natural, scenic, and open condition for conservation purposes. Where does that sound like a fence, a meaningless fence that just goes down to the water with, that's not containing anything? Where does it sound like that would be a good idea? When all that's going to happen is coyotes and deer are going to come up into my neighborhood and into the. How does that sound like a good idea?
So the whole purpose, the purpose of the fence for Sal and Gretchen is there's a lot of pedestrian traffic that cuts back and forth between that 50-foot conservation restriction area and your boardwalk, your dock, that they have no control over. So what they're trying to do was to put up something that would limit this pedestrian traffic. And that was the purpose of the fence. I disagree with you, Joe. I mean, I have a 4.5 to a 5-foot fence around my garden. I've seen deer jump that fence standing still. So it's not going to stop them. And coyotes are a lot smarter than we think. But let's say this, rather than get into an argument that neither one of us are going to win, what if we put up the cedar post for the fence? And we won't put the fencing up at this time. And if he can put up the cedar posts, I mean, they look like, there's no different, there's not that than a dead tree. They basically look the same. He can put, it's delineating his property line. So he can properly post his property line. And hopefully in the future, he never has to put up that 4-foot section of fence and at 40 feet.
Like you said, Rich, you know, we're not on the board. You aren't, I'm not. Like, I don't know why I'm having to defend myself against something that's so clearly written in the restriction of conservation. I just don't get it.
All right, so I think to the commission, now I'll ask your input. With no fencing, is it all right to delineate the property line with cedar post? Does that somehow violate this 50-foot conservation restriction area?
Could I say something here, Bob?
Certainly.
I think that's a really good middle of the road. I have 10 acres where I live, and it's hard to tell where the property line is. But the neighbor, in between the neighbors and my property, are cedar posts, just the posts, just like you're talking about. And I really like it because I am territorial and I want to know where my property is. And it keeps us both knowing exactly where it is without having to block wildlife, which this wouldn't block anyways, because they mostly move along the edge of the shore.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I've seen deer hop the fence behind my house, which is between me and the highway, and it's a lot higher than the 4 feet. So I don't think they'll stop any animals even at that height. But that would be an excellent compromise if you do that, Rich. And I think, well, my opinion, it would work. Anybody else on the board have any comments?
Bob, I agree with you. I think it's a great compromise for a situation that I think has become very contentious.
Yeah, I would agree that the posts are good, but I would leave it as the post and not as a possible add later unless they came back to us.
We would have to come back if there was. It would be a file of determination of applicability to put the fence up.
All right.
Bob,
Yeah, David.
why not just move the boardwalk over to the adjacent property, and therefore no one's going to be accessing their property?
That's something.
They moved the dock. Why not move the boardwalk? I'm just throwing it out there.
We'd love to do that. We'd love to do that.
So to answer that question, David, with that boardwalk was also permitted in 2005. It was May of 2005. The owners of the parcel of Sal and Gretchen's, the previous owner was a Dale Passione. And he had worked with Joe Ames and granted him permission to do that filing, to put the boardwalk there, because that was the shortest distance, and probably still is today, the shortest distance to span the wetlands, so they could get to that little peninsula where their boat was being docked. You know, it was never, it is what it was, an agreement at the time. It was never formalized into any type of easement. And so the movement of the boardwalk now is something that's being worked on between Sal and Gretchen and Joe. And, you know, we can't just go in and just move it right off the bat. They're working together to figure out, but you're right, that would be easy, but it's just not going to happen right away.
Well, they have newer methods to work in wetlands for docks and boardwalks, even like on our conservation lands or other towns, that you're not disturbing them at all with this newer type of post that they screw in. So it's just, if it's going to come down to where the posts are going to have a fence put up along it, I think they'd be better off moving the boardwalk to eliminate that concern.
Well, we don't, our hope is that we don't have to do that. Right? So the hope is that we don't have to install the fence. And this whole thing may just iron itself out. Regardless, our client would still like to somehow delineate his property line. And so with the cedar post, it gives him a defined delineation of that line. If we ever had to put up the fence or felt there was a need to put up the fence, we'd have to go back to the commission to file a determination of applicability. But my guess is that you're right. Look, that was permitted 16 years ago. So there's absolutely better technology out there today that wasn't around 16 years ago. So I have a feeling that the whole boardwalk issue is going to resolve itself.
All right, good. Any other comments from the board? Can we close this? Someone,
I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor? Okay, got to do the roll call again. Peter?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Judy?
I,
David?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
And myself. So it's close. Thank you, one and all. Rich will get a order of conditions out as quickly as we can for it. You probably won't start construction or anything until later in the spring, I take it?
Yeah, no, the pool itself, probably not till April, and even quite honestly, even with the landscaping and stuff, that's probably going to be April too. There's not, like I say, there's only 3 trees to be coming out, so I don't think they're going to start anything very soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Drive carefully.
Thank you.
We have a, shall we go down to South Street? Jane, is that, you ready? You're on mute, Jane.
Ready enough.
Okay,
I don't need to say anything, do I?
not if you don't want to. All right, Mr. Lucas, are you in?
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay.
everyone?
And I don't have it here right next to me. Let me get some paperwork. Jane, did you get any feedback from the commission members about for the order of conditions?
Only Jim.
Okay. Well, he's the more expert than I. Hang on a second. You can talk, I'll hear you.
Well, I send everybody the information, and hopefully you can make your own decisions. Diana looked up today who the quorum people are, and the quorum people are, let me look. Judy, Bob, but there was one, let me see, she did it this way. There were days when Jim, Jeff, and Rich were not there, so the quorum are the rest of you.
Judy, Bob, Dave, and Peter.
Thank you. And Bob disappeared.
Jay, let me ask. I think I've had read enough for those days that I missed, those meetings that I missed, to get myself up to speed on what occurred during those meetings. Does that still would that satisfy me as a voting member?
I don't know, but I would think that if you've read that horrible historical document that I sent out, I mean, it's the whole thing. You kind of had to do that in order to figure out who's who and what's what. I
feel
hard to keep track of.
I haven't missed a beat on this. Whether I may
Okay.
have not been present at a meeting, I think I know enough about this application than any others in the past.
All right.
Years I've been on the board.
All right, I would qualify that as a voting member. Anybody disagree? All right. So Jim, you're a full voting member as far as I'm concerned, so.
Okay.
So any other comments on that?
I am happy to have Jim's expertise in this matter.
All right. So Jane, how have you, what's your proposal on your findings?
Well, I think you all have what I thought were the findings based on looking at the history document and asking the DEP circuit rider about this site, and I didn't specify the site, but he brought it up. He says, "Is this the South Street site?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, the reviewers already flagged this for specific review." So I've sent everything that he said to all of you, including to Chris Lucas. So I am not a voting member, thank goodness. It's up to you. You have all of the tools.
Okay, but the thing that bothers me is that in the past, when the DEP has had an issue with a site, that they have given some specific comments as to what they disagree with, what they agree with, or whatever. And I haven't seen that from them. And that bothers me because they've answered some of your questions, but they have not come out and said, we disagree with the approval of this site for this reason, or A, B, or C. And I just haven't seen it. Jim,
It's
have you
not for
seen?
them to say. It's not for them to say. It's the commission's decision.
No, but they have, in the past, I've seen it where they come out and said, this needs to be taken care of before you can issue an order of conditions or whatever.
How long ago, Bob? I don't think I've seen that.
I know it's happened in the past because, well,
Well, we
again,
do have extenuating circumstances. They're all in strict lockdown, and
yeah,
the DEP circuit rider told me that he's not allowed to do any site visits except for perhaps certificate of compliance site visits. He can't do anything. And the DEP are the ones that teach a lot of the courses that the MACC sponsors. They're our experts. We've said that before.
Yeah,
And I did ask him if they would appeal it if we approved something that they didn't agree with, and he never did answer me on that.
okay.
But he can't necessarily make comments on specific sites, and I didn't mention it anywhere in my question to him on purpose, and he asked me about it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
just so you know some of the history on this site, none of this is new information. Well, I did have a conversation with Masoon Rita. She's the actual reviewer for this project. She called me when we filed because there was a file number already open from this. That's why it was flagged by DEP. This was filed like a year ago, but the commission didn't accept it because it had numerous errors. It didn't have the right filing fees. I think, Jane, you could speak to more of the issues. This was like a year or so before we filed it. We were brought back in to help with the NOI and bring it up to compliance and the standards, not only for your bylaw, but also for the state. So they flagged it saying we can't have two files open. So we asked DEP to close out. We withdrew the previous filing and asked DEP to go forward with this one. They issued the file number. They had no comments on the project. That's typically where Mass DEP would note if they had concerns that they want the commission to be aware of. If you go back to that email that went out, and Jane, you were copied on that on November 9th last year, there were no comments. So that was the only thing DEP alluded to me that they had an issue with the two filings. So we withdrew the original.
All right, I didn't get that impression.
Jim, is that, you've been around for a while. Do you agree with me that they would have said something, or?
I mean, I think Jane is correct that DEP tries not to take a position. But I think if there was a situation where they felt there was a need to address an issue because the filing was incomplete or incorrect, I think they would have notified the commission somehow through the agent.
Okay.
I think I do think, Jane, your email to DEP was thorough, but I don't think it gave the entire picture. And I think that's how why the response came back the way it did. I'm under the, to get into, I think that there is a lot here that was created before, and I know we disagree. Just from what I've seen from your correspondence, I think we have a lot here that was recorded before October 6th of 97. I think there's confusion here that because they recently recorded a plan that negates this exception. I don't think that's the case. I think they simply did a survey plan of an existing lot. That doesn't start the clock over. The lot was in existence well before that date. And I think we got to consider that and keep that in mind while we're reviewing this project. If they had done a abbreviated or a approval not required plan because they were dividing the lots or creating new lots and recorded that, or had approvals from planning, I think now we're in a whole different situation. I think you're right that now we have a new lot created. It doesn't get this exception, but I don't think that's the case here. And that's
Well,
why
they had two lots. They had two lots. Correct. And they were using only part of one of them. So in order to make one lot that was compliant, because there was an unclear title on part of the lot that they want to give, the 0.25 acres, they basically combined the two lots and then subdivided them again. And I think that's exactly what I am talking about. In order to make it a buildable, compliant lot, they were going to have to subdivide it, right? Because they're giving us that portion because it doesn't have clear title, and that's how they're clearing the title.
I think that piece, and Chris, you can speak to this maybe, but that piece is not in ownership of the the Innes family.
It is. The piece is the other side of the stone wall that's included in the plan that was created by McRae, way back when.
What I saw from a deed is that all these lots were in possession as of whatever the deed was that,
Yes, the
Conveyed
two
all this.
lots were,
right, so they all
and
went
they were
under,
using both, and then they were going to subdivide the top corner off of one because it was a previous piece of another deed, so it wasn't clear. So what they're doing is they're taking the whole thing and then they are creating one lot that's this big, subdividing the two together that are co-owned, and they're taking part of it out. So they are creating two lots. One's a non-conforming lot that has an unclear title that they want to give to the town. I've tried every which way from to try and figure out how to do this in a good way.
if it's unclear title, then I don't understand how it's part of this.
The
I don't
lot.
How it's
either.
under the
It's what
same
they
ownership
said.
as what the lot is that they're trying to develop. My take is all these lots were conveyed to Miss Innes.
Two lots.
Miss Innes was the owner of all of them, so they all became under common ownership and merged together as essentially one lot.
Yes, but
That's
then
how it
they
works.
subdivided it again.
When have they
That's what I'm
subdivided?
saying.
When did they subdivide it, Jane?
They subdivided the area that's above the stone wall. That's the part that they're proposing to
No.
give to the town.
But when?
Because it's not clear.
But it hasn't been subdivided yet.
1959. That was the plan we provided to the commission at the last hearing. The plan of land shows the quarter-acre parcel. I can pull it up.
So
That shows what the layout of the lots was, as I believe of 1959 per the surveyor's summary. So we didn't carve anything out. That's how it was done. And the two lots below it
No, I
came under
disagree.
common ownership. That's what a professional land surveyor has provided. He stamped it. His reputation is on the line, and that's
So that 120.25 acre lot that you are giving proposing to give to the town is part of the two lots, the one lot that was done by McKay or whatever, McRae. Let me look it up.
we're not giving that lot to the town. That quarter-acre lot has unclear title, and Miss Innes does have some rights. She's donating any interest and rights she has to that quarter-acre parcel to the town of Foxboro, so they would have a clean title, is my understanding.
Potatoes, yeah.
Well, I don't.
But it's not part of this NOI.
Basically, she's subdividing it out and keeping the rights, obviously.
The town of Foxboro owns that parcel, but Miss Innes has some rights to it. That's the problem. So the town of Foxboro owns that quarter-acre lot, but Miss Innes, if she chose, could try to assume those rights in land court, is my understanding. And she's willing to waive her rights and interests, so the town of Foxboro then owns that lot outright without any.
That's not what's been discussed.
Absolutely. It's been discussed and presented in every document we submitted.
But Jane, that area, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like it used to be a roadway there. So
Yeah, it did.
Okay, so that would indicate to me that it was the town of Foxboro or the state or county layout. So it would not be necessarily part of the original lot.
Well, it was because the McRae
just-
did an A&R lot that combined both of them back in 1961.
Right. Sorry, it was 1961, not 19. No, it was 19.
It was 1961. The 1959 one was when the lot 18 was created, and lot 19 was the one that was between the old South and the new South streets.
Okay, but nevertheless, the lot was originated before the act, it's an old lot, correct?
The whole lot, but they're breaking part of that lot out. That's what's.
She doesn't have ownership, clear title to that, or she's not the only owner to that lot.
But that lot is included in this A&R plan from 61.
Okay,
That
so how
lot's
does that
not
apply?
included.
Yeah.
This one.
Well, if, Jane, so
Well, right here.
essentially you're saying if they're subdividing that out, which is, they're carving that out for purposes of this development, if it would affect their ability to use the exception under the Rivers Protection Act, why wouldn't they just keep it? What's the point of giving it to the town then?
They basically have two lots. If they wanted to use the river, well, I don't know what that is.
There's no reason for it. They would have held on to it, right? Chris, I mean, you would just hold on to it and keep it as part of the lot.
The reason these things were just, the Inuses discovered they own these properties because Ron Rogers wanted to purchase the properties that were owned or unknown for the fishing people. And then they found out the Inuses owned it, and the Inuses said, cool, but we'll
They were getting
develop
taxed on it. They started getting taxed on it. So they were getting taxed as a developer
Probably
lot,
because
so they
Ron
started
Rogers
looking into the
figured out who
potential.
owned it.
Right. Well, that's really how they came about this. They're like, hey, we're getting taxed as a developable lot. Let's see if it's developable. And, we looked at it. It looks like it, it meets the Rivers Act
Well,
regulations.
she called me. She called me about it too, Chris. And she said, is it true that I own this? And what does that mean? And I said, under the Rivers Protection Act, you have two lots that, if they comply with zoning, are buildable. One is all wetlands, but now you're combining the two. So you're correcting the 125-foot frontage lot, that's lot 18, by adding to it and cutting out the top.
I've said my piece on it. We provided a plan of land by a professional land surveyor showing the lot layout that was used. We're just on the one lot. We're not doing anything on the 0.25 acre parcel. The board can make the decision, but I think we've laid it out it's confusing. I admit this is a very confusing and convoluted site, but I think we've laid it out for the board, and we've
Judy,
plan. It's been provided.
Yeah, my take on this is that initially, okay, there are two lots, and they submitted a plan to build on essentially both lots. And if they had submitted a plan to build on only one lot, they wouldn't have met the zoning regulations. So we find out later that combining these two lots was required by the zoning board to cure this oddity. I forget what it's called. Jane, do you remember what the zoning requirement was? So in order to comply with the with the Riverfront Protection Act, it has to be a lot that can be developed under other municipal and state law. So these two lots had to be combined to be under municipal law. And now they're combined and the new lot is now. So they wouldn't have been able to build on these two lots, or they could have built on maybe one, but they wouldn't have met the frontage requirements. So they had to have the two lots. But then zoning said there was a misconnect. You had to cure this problem with these two non-compliant lots to meet the zoning regulations. So this particular project has to meet the zoning regulations. So they had to combine the lots and record them. And now they have a new lot. That's the way I look at it.
And I do too. Thank you, Judy. You're much more eloquent than I.
So I hear what you're saying, Judy. I think I disagree because these lots were in ownership by the same person. What happens is when you have lots that are next to each other that are owned by the same person, when zoning changes throughout a period of time, when that zoning bylaw changes that requires, let's just say frontage, requires more frontage, those lots have to come together. It causes automatic merger of those two lots so that they can get as possibly as close to what's required under zoning. Merger happens all the time. That's why when you buy property or properties, you put them in separate names. Because if they're next to each other and they're both in the same ownership, same name, eventually they're going to merge together. So you're going to have one lot. One lot could have been developed. I mean, two lots could have been developed. Now you only have one lot. And that one lot has to be, is the only lot you have left to develop. And I think that's what happened in this case. It's not a new lot. These lots merged a long time ago. It's not a new lot.
But apparently the zoning guy didn't feel that way, Jim. He said they had to be combined to correct this problem, that neither of the lots met the zoning requirements. So
Okay, Judy, when was that zoning required? Was it recent or 20 years ago?
well, this was Jane's conversation with the zoning guy that said that the lots had to be combined to prevent, I can't remember the name of it, Jane, can you?
I'd have to look it up.
Jane wrote
Imperfect invalidity, infectious invalidity.
Yeah, Jane wrote a little, she wrote a little blurb on it after to the guy, and the zoning guy said they had to be combined to correct for malicious, what is it? Malicious.
Infectious
He said infectious invalidity, because then it has to be subdivided again in order to get rid of that piece that is not clear titled. And that's all along they've been saying to clear the title. That's why she's giving it to the town, and they're making it sound like.
I think infectious invalidity occurs though when you subdivide land, and I don't think they're subdividing here. What happened was the lots merged time ago. They became one single lot because zoning changes, and when zoning changes, towns want lots to be as close as they can to be a conforming lot.
But
So
Jim, how
if there's
can
two
these
lots
lots
next to each other,
merged if they didn't have clear title on this one section?
no, 18 in that other lot.
Yeah, you're confusing, the members are confusing. There's 3 lots. That's the problem. The assessor's info shows 2. There were 3 in debate back in the 50s and 60s. There was the quarter acre piece to the north. And then there was the Regina Childs lot and then lot 18. The lot 18 and Regina Childs came under common ownership, as Mr. Marsh said. And at that point, at some point when the zoning changed and they became non-conforming, they merged into one. And then there's the quarter acre lot to the north that is not subject to the NOI. That is the one Miss Innes has some interest in and title rights in, potentially. The town of Foxboro owns that lot. She's willing to waive her rights in it. So it's not part of this NOI. It's the lot to the south. But the way the parcels were shown on the assessor's information, they overlapped incorrectly. So we included the parcel to the north just to cover ourselves for the abutter notification and make sure we had the extra area identified so we didn't miss any abutters. So it's a matter of 3 parcels from the old plan, and it's a matter of 2 parcels under your assessor. So there's we're talking about different things here, depending on how you're talking 2 lots versus 3, but the 2
They
lots.
became one in the 1961 A&R approved plan that was recorded in the Registry of Deed for McHugh or McRae, whatever it is.
Right, and that was the Child's lot and the lot 18.
Formerly Child's lot. Both were formerly Child's lot.
Right.
But they were combined in an approval under subdivision control law not required by the planning board in 1961, and it was recorded in the Registry of Deeds as one complete lot. It shows the as boundary markers. It shows stone walls. So there's a stone wall that makes it look like 2 lots, but it's 1 lot. Just saying.
It's the one lot is the one we're working
That's
on.
the one being developed here. That's the one. For the
Jane, you're
NOI.
No,
misreading
the one
this.
you're working on is this corner lot plus lot 18, which shows at the bottom of that lot. Lot 18 is part of the subdivision plan that was from 59 or something, wasn't it?
Right, lot 18 is part of one of them. They were
1959. Lot 18 is part of that. And then the rest of it was land now or formerly of Rena Childs.
Right, the rest of our parcel was. That does not include the parcel to the north, which is on the plan.
No, you guys are
Cedar
saying two
Street.
different things. We asked you about it and they said, yeah, it's lot 18. And then lot 18 is what you reference in your notice of intent as having been created in 1959. But this other lot, which was the McRae lot, was created in 1961 under an A&R subdivision.
I don't know how to explain it. I can show the plan if that helps the rest of the board. Otherwise, I really don't know what to say here. I mean,
Well, when we were asking for a surveyed plan, we meant the major plan, not a separate surveyed plan, but that's just another.
but the lot lines that Mr. Spink used are identical to what was shown in that plan. This plan was created to confirm that that was the proper boundary. That's what he used.
Would any of the members like to, for Mr. Lucas to throw that plan up so we can ask questions about it, or do we all have it embedded in our brains at this point in time?
I have a
Chris,
copy of it.
put it up. Why don't you put it up, Chris?
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep, I can. Okay.
According to the surveyor and Mr. Spink, this is lot 18. This is the Rena Childs lot. That these two came under common ownership. This is the boundary of the parcel we have in front of the commission. This is the 1/4 acre lot to the north that the town of Foxboro owns, but Miss Ines apparently has some rights in. It's not clear. It could get messy between the two parties to try to resolve that. That's why she's giving away. She's just looking to develop this lot. This is the 47,200 square feet we've been talking about. The assessor's information has a parcel line coming through here, so we're not sure where that came from. So we included 2 parcels in the filing, which would have included this whole area here just to cover ourselves, because it looks like a portion of the town parcel mapped here encroached into here. This is the deed. This is based on all the deeds, all the title information we provided the board. Professional land surveyor reviewed all of this and confirmed that this was the boundary as conveyed to Miss Ines when it became common ownership. And then, as Mr. Marsh said, when the zoning changed, these non-conforming lots would have been forced to merge into one because of the non-conformance of the frontage. So we've shown this plan. We provided this plan to prove to the board that the plan we have that Mr. Spink stamped and you've all reviewed and all the calcs are based on is accurate. And that's what we provided you here. And honestly, we prepared all of this at the specific request of the commission and only had it recorded because that was what was asked of us. Mr. Ines went out of his way to do those extra steps to appease the board. He's answered every question you've had. We've tried to work in good faith to show you everything. I know there's been a couple calculation errors, but this is a complicated lot due to the overlap. We've provided all the information you've asked for. And just to clarify too, I sent that email earlier. We did quantify the impacts in the road right away. We were a little under 1,800 square feet, so my quick math wasn't too bad at the hearing last time, but we're fine if you use the conservative number of 1,800 square feet, but it was actually 1,619 square feet here. And then we clarified the riverfront existing conditions, which has no impact on the calcs. So I'm happy to discuss this further. I really don't know what else to say. I mean, the surveyor has put this plan together showing that this is the one lot. And we only recorded it the other day because we thought that's what the commission wanted to verify all of this for the record. We did not record it the other day to get put into a position that, hey, it was just recorded now, so you can't do this. We would have never done that. We were working in good faith with you.
Hey,
Thank you.
Chris, I mean, I mentioned this 2 weeks ago at the meeting, that if the lots were combined and recorded, that you would be under the new, regulations. And you told me it didn't matter.
Because these lots became one when they came under the zoning change and the common interest, the common ownership. So they were one lot when we filed. This is just, he prepared this plan showing the old history so the board was aware, but this is the lot we came in front of you with. This was the lot back in 59 or 61. whatever that date was. We prepared this plan and had it recorded so it was clear and on record for the board. We're not subdividing, we're not combining lots, we're not doing any of that under this notice of intent. We didn't need to.
Well, tell me why if these lots were combined, why is there a line down the middle of them into two separate lots?
We're showing.
Why did you present that with two separate lots if they're combined?
The two lots, this is one lot, this was the other lot. This is showing the history with, this was lot 18 and this was hers. They became one lot. I don't know the year that happened. As far as I know, I understand the zoning was in the past when that would have happened. This is from 1959. So.
And I haven't seen any paperwork that says the lots were combined. I mean, everybody keeps saying this is automatic. If it was automatic, why would the zoning guy in town require this problem with the lot to be corrected?
We haven't spoken to the zoning person. I'm not sure why. And, you know, I don't know if he's had facts. Does he have all the information in front of him? I don't know. I can't speak to that.
Judy, who you refer to the zoning person? Who are you referring to? Is it the building inspector?
Jane, you'll have to, it was Jane's discussion about the, you know, that with the zoning guy, I don't know what his name is. He's somebody in town that said that the lots needed to be combined to prevent
Infectious
something or other.
infectious diseases. I've had my COVID shot, thank you, but
Yeah, all I'm saying is we were told by a zoning person that the lots had to be.
Barry Ringler.
Okay,
Barry Ringler is the new zoning and building inspection guy. He used to work in Brookline, and if you look up infectious invalidity, there was a lawsuit. There's a case law about it in Brookline. So I think you might know what he's talking about.
all right, but that's that will come up when they apply for a building permit. Is that correct, Jane?
That's what I'm assuming. I was trying to save them the trouble.
Okay, well,
I went in, I talked to him about something else, and we got talking about the site, and it turned into a different discussion. I don't care about zoning.
But yes, but we do care about zoning in this because this has to comply with other municipal and state law.
okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We do
But
care about
even,
zoning.
okay, even if we give them an order of conditions, and in that part of the order of conditions states that if it does not comply with zoning or Board of Health or whomever, then it's null and void. They cannot, it's not that we're giving them approval to build a house. He still has to get the building permit from the building inspector. So I think that was.
That's basic. Yeah, that's true, Bob. That's basically, we have that in our boilerplate
So
language.
are we, I guess, my question then is, are we overstepping conservation with zoning? I don't know, you know, I don't want to get into that. I don't want zoning to run conservation, and I don't think we should run zoning. So
well, one of the requirements, Bob, is that it has to comply with other municipal.
Okay, but
grandfathered as long as.
But we're not experts in the zoning, so let's.
No, I know.
Let's
if we
let
talk
zoning.
about the percentages that are being altered, I think that's probably more the case.
Okay, but let's let zoning worry about, you know, the next step.
I think that's a great idea, Bob. Jane and Judy, correct. You got to comply with other municipal laws.
But as
purposes of this exemption. So you're right. We're not experts in zoning. So let's not try to step on the toes of the zoning enforcement officer and make a decision on his part. because, and we shouldn't make a presumption that he made a correct decision in this case based on information that was provided by Jane. Just because I think this is a very complicated matter. I think I've given my best.
I know it's a complicated matter. No thinks about it.
I've given my best opinion based on what I've reviewed. But again, I'm not a zoning enforcement officer, and I'm not going to make decisions as if I was one. So to put something in as a condition, I think that would make perfect sense.
Okay.
I think and that should address Judy and Jane's concerns, I think.
Well, that's fine, except that we have a new lot here. And now we're trying to look at the Riverfront Act. We're trying to look at the Riverfront Act either before or after, when the lot was recorded. So how do we resolve that?
I think that would probably come out in the zoning, because they're the ones that will make the decision. When was that lot? When was it merged? When was that lot created? And then they can go with their ruling from there. I mean, it's like if we gave him a building permit and he had to put a septic system in. All right, we won't give him a building permit, but if we gave him an order of conditions and he tried to put a septic system, if the Board of Health did not approve of it, then he doesn't get it. So we can't act for the Board of Health. I don't think we can act for the zoning.
I totally get that, Bob, but we are trying to write an order of conditions right now and this zoning decision will be made later. And so how do we look at this project? Do we look at it as a riverfront project that's grandfathered in? Or do we look at it as a project that a lot has been created after October 1997?
I think we got to make a vote on that, whether it is or it isn't, based on the information provided by the applicant. And I know we're not zoning experts, but we got to base a decision on what's been provided, whether we agree or not agree with what the applicant is saying. And if they think we're wrong or they think we're right, if they think we're wrong, they'll make the same pitch to a judge to DEP.
Okay, with that, Jim,
I think we got to make that decision. I mean, we got to do it here. Okay. Would you like to make a motion, Jim? I think if we could continue on for another hour or two, but we're still going to beat the same dead horse. So why don't you make a motion?
Okay, wait, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Especially with the guy here. So I thought we already approved this last week and we were just trying to figure out the order of conditions this meeting.
Well, I don't think, part of the, what we're trying to approve is, I think, Jane, if we say that it is a non-conforming lot or whatever, then Jane would be writing the order of conditions in a negative, say a denial of the project. If we say that it's a pre-1900 lot, whatever, then the order of conditions would be an approval state and would go on from there.
Oh, I disagree with that too, because I mean, to tell you the truth, one way or another for me, there's too much disturbance. So we could make a vote on this. We could make a vote, on what Jim says, if we look at it as a lot that was created before or after October 1997, but that still doesn't make it an approved project if it's a grandfathered lot. There's still.
No, I get that. I think you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay.
It doesn't end the story.
Let's cross one bridge at a time. Okay.
All right, so
I
I'll
think
make,
that's the more important question, though. Even if it were grandfathered, does it comply under the performance standards that I listed in my sheet from the previous agent's report? That one sheet, that's basically what the different performance standards are that are supposed to be met.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Can I ask a question,
I
Bob?
think- Yes,
Bob?
yeah, go ahead, David.
Question to Jane. In the order of conditions, we have to eventually approve findings.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And I think one of the findings, well, this issue about the lot we shouldn't be talking about the lot and whether it's non-conforming or not. We should be looking at a finding.
Thank you.
Is this fall underneath the 10% disturbance issue of the riverfront lot? They've made some alternatives. They provided alternatives, and that's going to be part of the findings because that's required in any riverfront area. And Chris, over a period of time, did move the house, did reduce the lawn size, even though we may not be totally satisfied, but that's part of the findings that they did provide and the alternatives and that the presumption of overcoming them. So I think is our role is, does this fall underneath the 5,000 square foot? This disturbance 10%, or does it not? Forget about whether it's non-conforming issue. The findings is relevant to the alternatives, and
Well,
then
right. Yeah.
which
Exactly.
one doesn't fall underneath.
David,
That's why there's a clause as part of the act saying you need to meet municipal and state laws too. So if we go approve this and they don't comply, okay, it's more important about the findings than whether the lot complies or not. That's not our role.
Yeah, I don't send you the orders often enough, but the orders have a part that's findings, and oftentimes what you do is you put the description of what they are proposing, and then in this case, oftentimes if it's like lakefront, we'll do alterations, percent impervious, et cetera, But then also under 1058-4D, you have to show there's no significant adverse impact. Things like has 100-foot wide of undisturbed vegetation been preserved to the maximum extent practicable? Has the lawn been made as small as possible? Have impacts been kept out of the 100-foot to the extent practicable or whatever? It doesn't have anything to do with profit or the design or the size of the house or anything like that specifically. But they are supposed to minimize that so that it has the least impact. And that's why I tried to figure out how to get this together in an order of conditions. It boils down to the findings under 1058-4D that you need to show that they've done these things. Have they done what you've asked as far as reducing the lawn area, et cetera, et cetera?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
And just so the board's aware, there are a lot of performance standards for the Rivers Act. We went through that with our presentation. The performance standard for the 10% or 5,000 square foot threshold doesn't apply if you have a single family house lot.
To the maximum extent practicable, you know that.
Right, but I'm saying as a hard number, the 5,000 square feet and 10%, there's allowable room for the board if we can.
So you tried to.
I'm just saying that standard isn't a hard standard. We don't have to be at 10% or 5,000. That standard's not applicable. We have to meet the other standards to the extent feasible. It's not you have to be at 5,000 or less or 10% or less. That's not a requirement with a single family house in the Rivers Act. And the specific standard to that, which we referenced in our documents.
Well, you guys have the list.
Yeah.
I sent it to you last time and said that's your homework. Now that's the homework.
Yeah. So Jim, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for finding hold on, that the lot that is the subject of this application is a lot recorded before, was it October 6th, 97? Is that right? I have the wrong date.
August 7th, 1996.
Yeah, sorry, I got the wrong date. 8/7/96.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Is there,
Second.
There'll be time for discussion. I want it seconded first before we discuss it.
Second.
Okay, now then discussion.
okay, how can we be voting on a zoning issue?
Can't.
We can make a vote on a decision based on the Rivers Protection Act and the information that's been provided by the applicant so far.
I would think that it would have to be, the finding would have to be worded that we are making an assumption that the lot was recorded before October 1997. Because we would otherwise be voting on a zoning regulation, on a zoning issue. That then gives us, then we are able to view this project under those requirements of the Riverfront Protection Act versus the after 1997 Riverfront Protection Act requirements.
Jim, you want to modify your motion to include that
the word
assumption?
Yeah, that's fine.
Rich, you want to second that modification?
I'll second it.
All right. Now that, anything else? Any other discussion?
Bob, just
Yes.
point out that if you look at page 2 of the 7 sheets that Jane gave us for our homework, the findings, the wetland regulations excerpts findings are listed for us to say yes or no and provide this information to Jane.
Uh-huh.
We may not all agree to certain things here, but we have to provide some guidance in how she's going to be writing this up.
Okay, but this is part of that guidance issue, whether it's an old lot or a new lot. Is it one lot or is it 2 lots? And so this will be that our actions assume that the lot was created back in the 59s or whatever, 61 or whatever, and that it is a combined lot. And so therefore it's grandfathered. That's our assumption. So, am I reading it correctly, Jim?
Yeah, based on the information provided by the applicant.
Okay.
Now, if this turns out to be incorrect and when it goes through zoning or whatever, then they have to come back and have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They did. If he doesn't get a building permit, it's certainly got to come back.
And we acknowledge that and understand that.
Okay.
Because it seems like this is the, not what the DEP said in their comments back to Jane, but.
Yeah. Okay. So all in favor of Jim's motion?
Aye. Oh, you're doing a roll call.
Okay. Peter?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Judy?
Take the mute off.
Judy? We can't hear
Oh,
you.
sorry, no.
Okay. Dave?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And Jim?
Aye.
And I, so the motion carries. Okay, now then we go from there. What's the next issue that we can, the findings? who's talking? Okay. Okay. All right, Jane, what's the next thing that you need from us?
It's the next on the list. Let's see. Well, it says the lot, you have to show that the lot can be developed as a single-family house under other municipal, but I think have performance standards. Where is it? Have performance standards of 310 AMR 1058-4D been met to the maximum extent feasible? Has the maximum extent of yard around the house been limited to the area necessary for construction?
Okay, now then, I know we've discussed the lawn size. I know that's a problem area with you. And Mr.
Just
Lucas.
showed you the facts. That's all, Bob. I don't have any feelings anyway, and I don't even want to talk about this anymore. I just don't know how to write this. I don't see how it can be written properly to comply with the riverfront requirements.
So I was actually thinking about this one. If I have a chime in here, I had a question. So I understand the staging and the idea of building the house, staging materials need to be safe. You don't want to have the stuff on the workway. You don't want workers walking onto Grove Street and South Street, getting hit by vehicles or stuff getting stolen. But a lawn wouldn't be planted until after all the staging is done. Everything's already removed out of there. You're not going to plant the grass while everything's staged on top of it. So my question is, can the area be used to be staged safely? And then at the time when lawn would be planted, we reduce that and plant other things that are more indigenous or native to the area that would satisfy the board and also make it an attractive property for the owner to sell. That was my two cents on that.
Mr. Lucas, would you like to reply to that?
Yes, and technically the answer is yes. Mr. Spink indicated to the board they need a minimum of 20 feet around the house on this lot because they have to excavate with all the fill and material. They need to be able to build a safe foundation. So the minimum lot size to construct the home would be 20 feet. Obviously, we're going to have to disturb an additional 25 feet to the
north.
For the staging area. Technically, we could convert that back to something more natural, but Mr. Innes is going above and beyond. He's infiltrating all the new impervious that he's proposing on the site underground. We have 2 stormwater features and underground filtration structures for that. He's also providing approximately 3,000 square foot mitigation area. We're going to go in and remove the invasives between the 25 foot and the limit of work. There's a cost for that. We're kind of looking for a trade-off here where we're giving back a bit more than is required. None of this is required for any of the performance standards. So we're kind of looking for a little give and take here where we believe it's within the intent of maximum extent practicable, and we're giving a lot back. Infiltration structures are not cheap. I don't know the costs. There's a cost for doing the invasive removal and then monitoring that, making sure it stays out of there. He's putting in the posts with the signage, and they're donating any rights that they have to that parcel to the north. So they're giving, the Inneses are giving back a lot more than they're required to ask for consideration for that extra 25 feet of lawn to the north to remain as lawn when they're done. And frankly,
and I agree that removing the invasives there is a high priority for me. So I agree with that. And let's keep that lot to the north out of the equation for now. But as far as I'm concerned, that the invasives is very high on my list. So any other comments from the board members?
Well, I felt that the invasive removal is a benefit to the seller of the house as well.
Oh, it is, but it's also
this mitigation is a little bit disguised as being done out of the for the environment, but I don't quite believe that. I mean, entirely. I think that it's to their benefit to be able to clear some of the noxious vegetation out of that area. So I'm not thinking, that is not a big selling feature for me. I think it's a selling feature for the developer. The infiltration basins, I think, are way too big. I don't know why they're so huge. I mean, why aren't we just infiltrating through, you know, the way we usually infiltrate into the ground through, you know, drains underground or so. I don't even get what this huge structure is. That could be removed. The lawn could be smaller. I mean, I've said all of this. It seemed like the developer came in here with a set plan in mind and did not change very much. They came in with the size of the house. They did not change. They came in with a set design for a house, and irregardless of what we said, there were not many changes. So we have 3 times as much disruption to the riverfront area as would normally be allowable. How can that be? You know, we don't have much riverfront left. There was a law that was created to protect riverfront, and we're letting a big house go in that is basically 25 feet from the river. And that's supposed to be okay?
Well, it's a little bit further away than that, but I don't have the chart right in front of me, but it's a little bit further away than 25 feet. But that's,
Well, it's in between the river
Yeah.
and wetlands.
Yeah.
Essentially, it is surrounded by water
wetlands.
resources
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
It's surrounded in one part of the corner. I mean, it's right up against the, 25-foot no disturb. I don't know how they're going to get around there with their trucks to get into the staging area through that. But, it's just going to be, I don't know. I've tried to advocate for a smaller house, but like I said, the developer has this house size and he's got it all designed and there's no change in it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We've heard that several times through the hearings. I understand we haven't moved much on the size of the house, but we relocated the location to be more favorable to several of the members. We've also reduced the footprint by 22%. We came in around 14,000 square feet of total limit of work, and we reduced it down to just under 11,000 square feet. So we provided a 3,000 square foot reduction. So Mr. Ines is concerned when he keeps hearing that we haven't done anything. We've taken a lot of measures here, and maybe to some it's not enough, and I respect that, but it's we have taken measures. We've heard the board, and we keep hearing that we haven't done anything, and I really do strongly disagree with that. I agree the house footprint hasn't changed much, but we've shifted things. We've moved it. We've reduced the lawn by 3,000 square feet, and that is significant when you're talking 15,000 square feet. It's almost a quarter of the limit of work.
All right. Any other comments from the board members? Okay. Jane, do you have enough to write your order of conditions? No. You're shaking your head. What more do you need from us? I mean,
You haven't really made any findings, have you? I had to run out of the room for a few minutes, need your call. But I only saw one being voted on, and wasn't that the lot was recorded before 1996?
Yeah.
There's all these other performance standards that need to be met as well.
Okay, so has the applicant proven there are no practicable alternatives with less adverse effects?
I don't think so.
I mean, I just said, I asked for a 1-car garage, that was rejected. I asked for I thought I was being generous too. And, the house was a set size and that was that. So I mean, there were some minor changes made, but there were not large changes made to this lot. I mean, this is a big house going in the riverfront, right next to wetlands. And so how should we do this, Jane?
Ms. Johnson, may I
I
ask?
really don't know. I've been wrestling with this for weeks. I've been trying to make it work, and in my mind, it doesn't work.
Ms. Johnson, may I ask you a question?
Yep.
The alternatives analysis, you know, we have to look at if there are alternatives with a significant reduction in impacts. Say we reduce the house by 500 square feet. You're still going to have a house and lawn surrounding it with 20 feet to excavate. So you're talking a couple feet around the whole perimeter. There really won't be an adverse impact with the bigger or smaller house. We're 100% treating the impervious on this.
It's the foundation size, Chris. You know, it's the foundation size.
Right, but it's not going to reduce the overall footprint. We're almost 11,000 square feet of limit of work. If we reduce the footprint of the house, you're still going to have you know, it's not like the project footprint's going to drop down to 5,000 square feet. So we're not going to have a big change. I don't want to get into a debate with the board on that. You know, it's your discussion, but I don't see a small reduction in the house of the footprint is going to change much of the limit of work.
Well, you're obviously not going to get down to, you know, 5,000 square feet. But an alternative that I gave you was a one-car garage. And then I said that would reduce the impervious area of the driveway. That was rejected. And
we don't feel that that's going to make a significant improvement to the lot. We think we've provided an appropriate.
No, I think there's profits involved here that are, you know, you're driving force here. And you want to get a certain sized house in there to make it worth your while profit wise. And this is a constrained lot. And I feel as though that a smaller house should be constructed on this very constrained lot. There is a law that is designed to protect the riverfront. And that is what we're trying to comply with here. And 3 times the amount of disturbance, I don't think is complying with the lot.
Chris, I don't have the plan right in front of me on the driveway. Is it a single wide driveway coming in and then a turnaround to get to the two-car garage?
I can
turn around. Yes,
I can. Yeah, there's a drive comes in. It's around 1,600 square feet with the drive, so the 2 cars can. Then there's a small little turnaround, so they can pull out safely on the. They can turn around and pull out onto South Street. And my opinion has nothing to do with the profits on this. And I'll tell that to any of my clients. I follow the science, and I offer my opinions based on the science, not who's paying me, not what their profit margins are, or anything like that. So I don't feel that this is an oversized house, so I'll have an adverse impact on the Rivers Act based on the
client stated that he would not get the profit he'd need if he made it smaller.
And that may be true, but that's not why I'm basing my opinion on. I'm here as a scientist to provide my opinion professionally on whether I believe there'll be an adverse impact. And it has nothing to do with his profit margin. And
well, perhaps he should take out the
garage is going to be a better sale for a home than a 1-car garage. I mean, that
perhaps he should take out the expensive underground leaching fields and the extent of mitigation that he's doing, and not offer that lot to the town. I mean, they're not required, and they're nothing the commission asked for.
That's what we're asking the board to vote on tonight. You know, to vote on the findings here and make a decision if you feel it's appropriate or not. Oh, did you want me to share that? I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Oh.
It's okay. Now it was the.
Sorry, I'll turn that off. I didn't. Are you good? You want me to turn it off?
No, yeah, you can turn it off. I was just concerned with maybe if there was a way of reducing the impervious surface on the driveway. But yeah, you just got the single coming in and then wide right before the garages. So.
Bob,
Yes.
I guess I'm a little perplexed on this whole project in that I look at that lot and it's essentially become a public dump. But on the other side, Judy's point of no suggestion of alternatives that might help improve the impact on the riverfront has been really offered or entertained.
What would you like to see, Rich? Anything specific?
Well, I think if reducing the two-car garage to a single car would reduce the driveway and reduce the footprint of the whole foundation. I don't see that as an unreasonable request.
Okay, well, as the developer said, the reason why it's a two-car garage is because he's got a room above it as part of the house. I'm not sure if it's a bedroom or whatever, but I don't think you could do it in a single car garage. That's my opinion, but
there's been nothing offered.
What's that?
There's been nothing offered on the size of the house.
No, that's correct. It just relocated it and moved it as we requested, yes.
That's it, that's fine.
Yep, okay. Peter, anything from you or?
I've driven around the neighborhoods over there and in the areas over there. I personally didn't think it was an oversized house. I know Judy and Jane, you feel differently about that. I think it's sort of in the middle. So personally, I didn't have a major contention with the size of the house and the footprint. To Chris's point, I mean, they're going to be trampling all around in there anyway, regardless if it's 500 square feet smaller or not. I thought about the idea about trying to keep the rest of the area. If they're talking about restoring the area and making it, improving it and making it better, restoring some of those invasives in some of the other area with more natural vegetation, that could be a compromise. Keep the size of the house, but make the area and the get rid of the invasives and the junk that's in there basically, and make it a more habitable area. That was sort of my compromise.
David, you've been quiet for a while.
I always have problem in this riverfront area alternative requirements, which Chris did go over in his notice of intent. It was confusing though. He has made some changes to reduce the impact on the riverfront area, which it's almost impossible to not have a house within 100 feet under that situation there. But I still don't know if they have met the alternative requirement standard of the 310 CMR. One thing I would like to do though is point out, does the proposed project have no significant adverse impact on the riverfront area's ability to protect the interests? And it's listed here in her findings. We should at least agree upon this. Protection of public-private water supply, protection of groundwater supply, flood control, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, protection of land containing shellfish. I don't think there's any mussels out there. And protection of fisheries and protection of wildlife habitat. I think we need to say, does the proposed project have no significant adverse impact on those interests in the riverfront area?
And what's your opinion on that? Is it adversely affected or not?
Mine?
Yeah.
I would make a conclusion that it doesn't impact those interests. And the closest thing it might impact, providing they build it with all the requirements and, erosion controls and other things, prevention of pollution. The closest thing it might influence is the wildlife habitat, but we got a 25-foot area of no touch zone.
All right. Anybody agree or disagree with David on this so that we can move forward with that? Jim?
I mean, that's fine. Make a finding. Is that sort of your thought? That what David's thinking?
Yes,
Vote
it's
on.
part of the list of findings on page 2 of her.
Yep.
Home, yep. Yep. So no adverse effect except
Nope.
possible.
No adverse impact or no significant adverse impact?
No significant adverse impact.
Because I think any development has an impact. I think that's unavoidable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, yes. But within reason, so significant, yeah. Rich, do you agree with that? That's,
Yes.
okay. Peter?
I agree.
Okay, and Judy?
I agree with all of them except for the protection of wildlife habitat. Because the presumption is that the 100 feet of undisturbed vegetation is what is important for wildlife habitat, and we're obliterating that in this project. I do think other, interests are protected, but I don't
Okay.
agree with the wildlife.
Even if they put a 10 by 10 house, there would still be an impact there, regardless of size of house. The impact would probably be very similar. Do you agree? If you put one of the quote small houses there would still be an impact on the.
I agree.
Okay.
Like what Jim said. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
There would be an impact. If you put a shed there, would be an impact. But how do we know if there's a significant adverse impact for wildlife in this area when the presumption is you need 100 feet of continuous vegetation?
It's only an assumption, I guess, on our part that, because actually I don't think you really ever know for sure on a lot of these things, but we just have to do the best we can to protect the environment and the animals, or whatever. So. Does that help you, Jane? You're smiling. Okay. I'm just trying to get it so you can get the order of conditions written and so.
Maybe the commission needs to take a vote then.
All right.
A vote for each of these sections.
Each item or just the section that David ran down the list?
Jay, would it be helpful just to make a finding on each particular?
I was just trying to simplify it rather than having 10 different votes. If we could just agree in principle that the findings that Dave had read down the list, we could do all at one time. So Dave, you want to read them off again and make a motion as part of it?
Well, she has a few more there underneath the findings for 1058 4D1. It says no significant adverse impact do the following apply, she asks, which she has to address in the order. So the first one is the lots recorded on or before October 6, 1997.
And you made a
Okay,
finding on that, correct?
We've done that. We've made the assumption that was done in the prior motion. So that's taken care of.
Well, for my agent report on 2-1, I wrote what I thought the findings should be, but that's not necessarily. They're supposed to comply the best practicable 1058-4, which includes a list of, has applicant proven that there are no practicable alternatives with less adverse impact? I would say no. Has applicant proven that proposed work will have no significant adverse impacts on the riverfront area? Has he demonstrated there are no practicable alternatives per 1058-4C1? It's that list as well. I mean, there's more to it. And
But that's a separate list, right?
it's a separate list that I'd sent
Yeah.
after I got the DEP circuit riders advice.
Okay. So would you like for us to vote on each one independently? Or how do you want us to handle it?
Well, he didn't think, I don't know, Judy, help. My brain is turning to mush again. So the second, okay, B, all right. So in the last one from the the homework, it says that the
Okay.
performance standards of 310 CMR 1058-4D been met to the maximum extent feasible. Those are listed on my newest, the agent's report for today. Let me see. And they actually are listed on the DEP circuit rider, on his list of things that should be voted for. So let's see. 1058-4. Has applicant proven that there are no practicable alternatives with less adverse effects? That's the first.
Okay. And you said no.
Yeah, I would say no. And have they proven that the work will have no significant adverse impacts on the riverfront area? You all seem to think that that's basically true, but wildlife, it will have an impact on wildlife. Has applicant demonstrated there are no practicable alternatives for 1058-4C1? 1058-4C1. This is why I sent this to you beforehand.
Yeah.
And my computer is acting up too, so I can't find it.
Not to complicate it further, if you're going to vote on wildlife separately, you may want to consider the state versus the local or your local bylaw. We had a wildlife.
Oh, we're not even going to go there.
Okay. Because we're definitely compliant under the state there.
Yeah, I don't even think the bylaw can. We haven't even gotten to the bylaw. I don't even want to touch that at this point. So 4C1 is practicable. Are there any practicable, no substantially equivalent economic alternative to the proposed project with less adverse effects on the interests? Practicable means substantially equivalent economically if it is available and capable of being done after taking into consideration blah, 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 blah. So the alternatives analysis may reduce the scale of the activity consistent with the project purpose and proposed use. Costs does not include anticipated profits. It's complicated, guys. This is like the longest section in the whole thing, in the whole Wetlands Protection Act regulations. And if this lot wasn't developed before the Rivers Protection Act, it must have been for a reason. I don't see how it could do it now, but that's just me.
Well, we have voted that we are taking the assumption that it was recorded before 1997. So that changes.
See, you understand it better than you're letting on, Bob.
Shh. Don't let anybody, well, never mind. We won't go there.
Okay, well then we'll go back to that then. Does the proposed project have no significant adverse impact on the riverfront's ability to protect the interests, including wildlife habitat? There's one for you.
Okay. And so our discussion was that, with one exception, that it's not going to negatively affect the riverfront areas.
Except wildlife?
Yeah, and the wildlife we don't know about. So we kind of.
Well, the wildlife habitat evaluation, which was not required, did include information about, you know, bare trees and holes in the ground for creatures and possible mink and whatever. But okay, so
I mean, we could go on and on. I mean, some people want to protect deer habitat, and you, for one, don't want to protect deer habitat because they got Lyme disease. So,
well, here's something you can vote on. Is there a 100-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation on the project site?
I don't think there can be 100-foot.
Well, is there one now?
No. Oh, no, there will not be one. Even if they put up a 10 by 10 shed, there won't be a.
No, but there is a 100-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation per se. It doesn't say anything about invasives on the project site. Right now there is. And so the next question is, has existing vegetative cover been preserved or extended to the maximum extent to equal 100-foot wide corridor? I don't think so. All they've done is 25 feet, and that's under the bylaw.
Mm-hmm.
And that's from the lower bank, I think. I'm not even sure if it's been measured from the, there are two different bankfold delineations. I don't know which one is which at this point. So
I clarified that for you, Jane. You inquired. I directly clarified that to you.
It still didn't make sense to me. I sent it to everybody else and it doesn't make sense.
What doesn't make sense?
Well, I'm not going to get into a mean annual high water line discussion with you because that would be completely off at this point.
Okay.
And that's what it has to do with it. It looks like there's a lower bank and an upper bank, and you went from the lower bank.
Not for the 25-foot.
No, for the riverfront area calculations.
Right. But your bylaw specifically says to use mean annual high water.
So
that we did.
But that's under the bylaw. That's not under the state.
Your bylaw regulates riverfront exactly as the state. It's written in your regulation.
Oh, here we go. All right.
It's written. I can read it to you. I mean, you're debating the regulations with the commission. You should be reading them correctly. It clearly states in your own regulation the performance standards have to follow the state.
We're talking about the state right now.
Yeah.
We haven't even gotten to the bylaw yet. So, are there practicable alternatives to the locations of the stormwater structures, management structures that may be allowed? I just go down the list and say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, please, please, please. I've given you the list. I don't want to do this again. Because I'm going to have to put that into the order.
Okay. Dave, you want to read the list and just let everybody say yes or no and go from there? You've got the list right there. And I'll poll the members.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Well, looking at the list, starting at the top, findings under 310 CMR 1058 4D3, do the following apply? First one, lot recorded before August 7th, 1996.
I think we made the assumption that yes, it is.
Second
So-
one, if yes, construction of a single-family house shall be allowed, provided A, can the lot be developed as a single-family house under other municipal and state laws?
Condition. Right? That's not a yes or no here. That's we're assuming it can
Okay, that's a yes or no.
Yes.
with the condition that if it isn't, it comes back.
Right. B, have performance standards of 310 CMR 1058 4D been met to the maximum extent feasible? Jane?
Jane, you say no. You're muted, Jane.
I don't think so. But I'm not a voting member. I've given you
Okay.
the facts.
Any other opinions?
But what was the citing again for, what was the citing again, David?
310 CMR
Yeah.
10.58 4D.
D. Okay,
A summary of that would be the work, including proposed mitigation measures, must have no significant adverse impact on the riverfront area to protect the interests identified in the Wetlands Protection Act.
okay, yeah, okay.
So is that a yes or a no, Judy, in your opinion?
I think the project would not have a significant impact on those interests except potentially wildlife
Okay.
because of the disruption of the 100-foot area of vegetation adjacent to the river.
Okay, Rich, do you agree?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Peter?
I agree.
Okay, Jim?
Help me out again. I was looking at the regulations, sorry.
Okay,
So what's the finding we're making?
About the interests of the act, whether or
Have they
not,
been met to the
Yes.
maximum extent feasible?
yeah,
I think so.
okay. All right. David, next one?
Under the same section, has the maximum extent of yard around the house been limited to the area necessary for construction?
no.
Rich?
I'd have to say no as well.
Peter?
I guess no.
Okay, and Jim?
No.
Okay. David, next one?
Findings for 10.584D1, no significant adverse impact. Do the following apply? Lot recorded on or before October 6, 1997. Yes or no?
Well, yeah, well, we've already beat that dead horse a couple of times. So we've made that assumption that it has been recorded earlier, so.
Okay, if yes, alteration up to 5,000 square feet or 10% of riverfront area, whichever is greater, may be allowed.
Now, read that again. If
If yes,
yes, okay,
alteration of up to 5,000 square feet or 10% of the riverfront area, whichever is greater, may be allowed.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, that finding's not applicable based on the previous vote. That applies to a different performance standard that would apply. This comes down to D1, 2, and 3. D3 is a single family house. This refers to the other standard. That's not applicable.
okay,
I think the point being is that the Conservation Commission may allow the alteration of over 5,000 square feet or 10% of the riverfront area.
so,
It's a yes or no.
Not applicable.
Judy?
Yes.
Okay, Rich?
Yes.
The
Okay.
operative word being may.
Yeah, okay, and Peter?
So the proposal area is, the disturbance is about 11,000 square feet. Is that right, Chris?
Correct.
All right, so that's just over, potentially just over 10%. So yeah, I guess it's a yes, yes, maybe as well. Yes.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is applicable too, but for purposes of this vote, I would say yes.
Okay. All right, David?
I think the next one doesn't pertain to this. Lot recorded after October 6,
Yeah,
1997.
okay. All right. So we'll go by that one.
Then we already discussed, does the proposed project have no significant adverse impact on the riverfront area's ability to protect the interests? That is the Wetland Protection Act interests. And I already listed out
Yeah,
one of them.
okay. All right. So I think we all agreed with that list too, so.
I think the only difference was the protection of the wildlife habitat.
Wildlife. Yeah,
That would be a no on that.
yeah, that portion of it.
Next one, is there a 100-foot wide area of undisturbed vegetation on the site?
And that's a definite no. Is that correct?
No, this is pre-project.
Oh, pre-project, okay. Yeah. Everybody agree with that?
What are we agreeing to?
100-foot non-disturbed pre-construction. There's 100-foot of area.
Vegetation.
Sure.
Lousy vegetation part of it, but it is vegetated.
With past disturbance. I don't know if you want to think that, there's a ton of debris and rock, so it has,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
Yeah, it's a dump. Yeah.
yeah,
but it is vegetated. It's a vegetated dump.
It is, all right. I'll agree to that. All right.
yeah. Okay, next, David.
Has existing vegetative cover been preserved, extended to maximum extent to equal a 100-foot wide corridor?
And I would say that's a definite no. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Everybody agree?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next, David.
Are there practical alternatives to location of structural stormwater management measures? The commission may allow these measures.
I guess there's alternative stormwater, but is there a better alternative than presented? Judy?
Yeah, these infiltration basins are these monstrous things. I don't know what they're for, to tell you the truth. We're infiltrating what, rainwater from the roof into a big infiltration basin. I don't think those are necessary, and without it, we'd be able to reduce the backyard a bit.
Rich? Rich, oops. Okay. Did everybody lose their lights?
No, they're flickering though.
Yeah,
Okay.
mine were. My-
Okay. Yeah, mine flickered. Okay, let's hustle this along before we close it off and say goodnight.
So the only other alternative that was mentioned during the hearing a couple times, if I recall, Chris, was moving one of the stormwater management area measures to the side of the house on the south side instead of having it in the backyard.
Correct. We can shift it to that location if the commission feels they want to make a condition to that effect. Mr. Spink said that would not be an issue.
Would it help reduce the amount of area that's being impacted and reduce the lawn area in the back?
I'd have to take a second look. I mean, maybe a foot or two possibly, but it's de minimis in my opinion.
The backyard is about 24, if I remember, about 24 and a half feet of grass beyond the deck, so that the deck is like 10 or 12 feet deep. So that means that it's a whole lot wider than 20 feet around the house for working.
Except Jane, it pinches in that area. The 25 foot and everything. If you look at the plan, it pinches in closer to the garage at that location. The garage is in line with the back of the house, but the
So how wide is the area behind the foundation then?
I don't have that in front of me. Mr. Spink's not on the call. I'd have to.
Well, if the whole thing could be 20 feet from the foundation, that would be another thing, but it's been discussed and knocked down.
Again, you're talking, if it's a few feet, you're talking maybe 100 square feet difference, maybe. I mean,
I think it would be a lot more than that. If you go out to the site and you look at where the corners are, it's right at the, practically at the edge of the bank there, the top bank.
I live right next to a wetland. I have 10 feet in my backyard between the
And
house.
I have 3.
You have 3.
I have 3 beyond my deck. The deck is the whole backyard, and that's what I was talking about when we were discussing it. Riverfront areas are very different.
Yeah. I'm glad I've got lakefront. Never mind. Next step. Okay.
Well, that you haven't really mentioned yes or no on that one.
All right. I think we lost Rich. I'm not sure if his power went out or not, but I don't see him on here any longer. Jim, any comments on that one?
I think are there practical alternatives to locations? I think they're fine. No. I'd like to revisit one of them, just because language is left out. If you go to the first section, the top, where it says, has the maximum extent of the yard around house been limited to the area necessary for construction? The statute adds in difficult siting situations to the beginning of that sentence. So in difficult siting situations, has the maximum extent of the yard around home been limited to the area necessary for construction?
Yeah, but that is a difficult siting situation because it's so close to the wetland. And that's why I left it off, because it's moot. This is a difficult siting
In
situation.
difficult siting situations, the maximum extent of yards around houses should be limited
Yes,
to the area necessary for construction.
should be limited. So has it been limited? Because this is a difficult siting situation. This is what we're discussing over and over again. That's why I left it off, Jim. I put the whole thing below, I think.
No, I get that. I just want to make sure the whole thing is in there. If we're gonna,
Well, then maybe we need to
That's-
say, is this a difficult siting situation? Yes. Has the maximum extent of the yard around the house been limited? No. Right?
right, yeah. I'm not changing my vote. I'm just saying. Just add that.
Okay, we got that one settled, or?
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. Peter?
Confused. Which thing am I saying yes or no about now? Yeah, did we just go backwards?
Not completely, but we did take a step backwards.
So we're talking about stormwater management, correct?
Yeah. Hang on.
Well, now we are.
All
Yeah.
right, I'm back. Sorry, I lost the power.
Yes, dear.
Okay.
This is a late one, honey.
What was the question to me?
I was under the, just the basic impression that if we're infiltrating water coming off an asphalt roof or runoff from a driveway or something like that, that's a good thing. So I understand that it sounds like it impacts the scope of the area that's being disturbed. So I was kind of okay with, I thought I was okay with the way that they were managing the stormwater.
Sorry, but that's why I keep asking if they can move the stormwater management. Now they're saying they're using that as a, well, we're giving you this, so why won't you give us that? They don't need to give us that. And nor do any of the other houses that we ever ask for dry wells have something so extensive. They're usually tiny. And this is a gravelly lot. So are there practical alternatives to location of structural stormwater? Yeah, there are, but they haven't done them.
Welcome back, Rich. We lost you for a little bit.
Yeah, I had a power outage here.
Yeah.
Was this something I was supposed to be voting on?
No, not necessarily. Not. We're discussing the stormwater.
So I guess to that end, yeah. So are there practical, I guess I'm not sure. If there are practical alternatives that haven't been presented, I'm not sure what they are.
Since they're not required in the first place, I think that there are, and that would be not having them at all. Stormwater mostly applies to BMPs, but in this case, stormwater is defined as being conveyance, which this is, but it's not required for single family houses either, especially not that big.
Chris, what would happen if you take all of that stormwater drainage out of the equation? What would happen to the roof drains and such?
Well, the driveway runoff would just dissipate, you know, it would run off to the lawn areas. The roof runoff would go into gutters and, you know, just dissipate like any other house. You'd have a gutter running down a downspout and it would just go out. We're doing this because this is, you know, this is infiltrating. These aren't above ground. These are underground structures that will allow with the impervious surface is being added, it's allowing the stormwater and roof runoff and the driveway runoff to get back into the ground. So.
They're dry wells. Usually they're small.
Right, but. Yeah.
It sounds like some people want to just eliminate it completely. What would the end result be?
Stormwater is not required for single family homes. I know Mr. Ines would prefer not to do them. So let's see what this would be. We're about.
Would that make a difference in the lawn area? That's the.
In the back, we're about 22 to 24 feet with that stormwater feature there. So yeah, we could save it. Like I said before, you're talking a couple feet over. I don't know what. 40 feet, you're talking 40-foot stretch, you might save 2 to 4 feet. So you're talking
460, yeah.
Square feet. I mean, we're talking to minimus numbers here when you're talking about the impact on a project like this. 160 square feet, do you really think that's going to turn this into a significantly adverse project that's going to harm the river? Professionally, I don't. And, we're getting into a debate about what's the minimum lawn size here. We're talking, we need 20 feet. We're asking a few extra feet and providing a lot of mitigation. You know, at the end of the day, if we have to knock 2 feet off, then I can talk to Mr. Ines about it. But then, you know, the stormwater improvements that we're adding are significantly superior to then that 160 square feet you're going to save. You know,
I'm right now,
yeah. We can remove it and, you know, we can look, one of them's in the front, so it's still going to be lawn because it's adjacent. It's out in the front there. The back one, I could talk to Mr. Ines if he wants to get rid of those and, you know, knock off a few feet of lawn, but I think the benefit outweighs the loss here. So,
but Judy, would that make you happier if he eliminates the stormwater?
Aren't we talking about, were there other, you know, are there other alternatives? We can't accept new information, and conditioning it has never worked.
Yeah, I realize, but yeah, I'm just trying to move this along the best I can. It's very frustrating for me as well as you. So,
Well, these are all things we talked about at the meeting about the infiltration, and it wasn't needed. Jane said that. And I'm tired of being berated by this applicant, to tell you the truth. We are trying, we are trying to do our best to meet the regulations of the Riverfront Protection Act. And we suggest things that would reduce the impact of this house and lot on this very constrained site and get pushback on everything. And I'm tired of it. I'm like,
Mr. Chairman, I just like to say for the record, Ms. Johnson, I take offense to that. We have been nothing but professional to you. We've never berated this board. We have difference of opinions, and that's what you're here to do. You're here to review it. I do take offense to that comment. I've been nothing but professional to you in this board. Thank you.
Okay, can we move on from that situation? Okay, all right. Does anybody on the board want him to remove the stormwater systems, front and back? I think we can, I know the hearing is closed, but to me, a modification such as that, if the board wants it, could be made. And we could, if 160 square feet of lawn would help matters, let's get it. I'm, you know, I don't want to nitpick over every little thing, but I want to move forward. So, comments?
I don't want to remove what's been proposed.
You do or do not?
I do not.
Okay.
For the stormwater. You know, it's up to the applicant if they want to limit the lawn.
Okay. David? Stormwater, no, yes or no?
I say yes, there are practical alternatives. It's up to them what they want to do.
Okay. Judy?
I think that infiltration basin is too big and it doesn't need to be there. And we've already said that. The roof drains could go off into dry wells easily. I don't know why that was part of the project, to tell you the truth. It's rainwater off the roof. That's all.
Okay. Peter?
I thought it was a benefit, honestly, so I was fine with leaving them there.
Okay. Rich?
I guess if it reduces the lawn, then there's some benefit there. So, yeah, I'd say remove it.
Okay, so we got 3 to leave it, and 2, yeah. So catch basin, infiltration basin stay in. So next item.
Will temporary impacts for installation of site-related utilities be restored to natural conditions? The problem with this natural conditions, it's not defined. The site utilities are all in the front. And if I recall on the plan that Chris provided us, the front's gonna be all lawn. So is that a natural condition? Yes or no?
Okay, Jim?
Yes.
Yep. Judy? The utilities coming in? Is that a yes?
That the utility, it's going to be restored.
Yeah.
To natural conditions.
No, but how could it be? They're utilities. I don't know.
Okay, I assume it's gas coming in underground and sewer going out underground.
Yeah,
And-
it's gonna be in the lawn though, so
Yeah, yeah.
it's not gonna be the natural conditions, but and building a house, it never is. So I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay. I assume the electric will be in cable overhead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it's gonna be restored to a vegetated condition. I would say that.
Okay. Peter, do you agree with that?
I'm gonna say no, because like I was talking about earlier, there's, although we could take it a step back further. I mean, natural conditions, this thing was never natural, right? Because it was a dump. We established. Jesus Christ. So. Catch 22. So I would say no.
Rich?
Are we saying vegetated condition or natural? Is it natural?
I think the word is natural.
Okay, so no.
Okay. All right, next one, David.
Has the applicant demonstrated that the partial rebuttal of presumptions of significance is sufficient to justify a lesser area of undisturbed vegetation?
We only asked for one, wildlife. That's why we did the wildlife habitat evaluation. That was the one we said there isn't significant wildlife, the state standards like beaver, osprey den, those type of things. And we've documented none of them exist on the site. So that was the only one we would be seeking reduction presumption of significance. And we followed the regulations to do that, which is why we provided the discretionary wildlife habitat eval for this. And while you're on this topic, this whole series of questions under A, I think it would be appropriate to note that this is for standard D1, which again doesn't apply to single family homes. I think it'd be appropriate to note that. I understand you have to go to the extent practicable, but this technically isn't applicable to single family home projects. None of these are under A here.
Okay. Duly noted. David? That more?
That's a yes. That's a yes and no question. Fine.
Okay. All right. All right. Jane, do you have enough yet? Or what more do you need now?
I guess if you just need to approve or deny this thing and go from there and tell me what conditions. Don't tell me anything. Just approve or deny.
Okay.
So let's go back to that original one. They're a yes or a no. Has the applicant demonstrated that a partial rebuttal of the presumptions of significance is sufficient to justify a lesser area of undisturbed vegetation?
I'd say no.
Jim?
Yes.
Judy?
Sorry, I don't really understand the question.
Want to read it again, David?
Has the applicant demonstrated that a partial rebuttal of presumptions of significance, which Chris has mentioned was the wildlife habitat, is sufficient to justify a lesser area of undisturbed vegetation?
Is sufficient to have a lesser area of undisturbed vegetation?
Is sufficient to justify a lesser area of undisturbed. In other words, they take more area out of the riverfront area or the 100-foot area.
Okay, okay. Well, in certain magnitude, I'm going to say no.
Peter?
I think based on the wildlife survey that he reported, I want to say yes.
Rich?
Yeah, based upon the wildlife, given that there really isn't any there, then I have to say yes.
Okay.
Last one. Does work impair the capacity of the riverfront area to provide important wildlife habitat functions?
Jim?
No.
Judy?
Yes.
Peter?
No?
Rich?
No,
All right. All right, then I guess we're down to,
That's it.
that's it. Somebody want to make a motion to either approve or deny the project?
That is it that Jane provided the commission on page 2 of the homework
Okay,
he gave us. I don't know what date it is though.
all right, but let's go back. Somebody want to make a motion to either approve or deny the project? So that it's a,
I'll make a motion to approve the project.
do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. All in favor of the project? Start with Peter.
Yay.
Judy?
Well, hold on. Isn't it all in favor of issuing an order of conditions?
Approving the project.
Approving
The
it,
project?
yeah.
Well said. Well said.
An order of conditions to approve the project, or the alternative would be an order of conditions denying the project.
Well, I would rather do it in the, do it in the affirmative. And if he doesn't get the vote, he doesn't get the vote.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why right now the motion is to approve the project.
Yep.
So I'm just explaining what, if it's not approved, then the project will be denied.
Yep.
So, all right. So going back, I'll start over on my left. Peter.
Yes.
Okay. Judy.
No.
All right. David.
I'll go with it.
All right. Jim.
Yes.
Rich.
yes, mainly because it's a dump.
All right. All right. So the project has been approved. So there you go, Jim.
The order of conditions.
Yeah. So is that sufficient for you to go on now, Jane, that you can get the order of conditions?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. All right. Any final comments? I know it's been a long night, but Jim, do you have any minutes that you really want to get approved, or?
I'd just like to thank the board for all the time on this one. I know it's been a lot of your time, and you're a volunteer board. I really do and appreciate it, as well as Mr. Ines. We appreciate the time and the efforts, and hopefully the next time I see you will be for a nice, easy redevelopment.
All right.
Thank you.
Chris.
I appreciate your
Yep.
time. Thank you.
Yep. Good night.
Right. I have the December 14th, 2020 minutes.
Okay.
The only change I had was on the first page, the last full paragraph, it says, in the second line, it says the EPA employed licensed site professionals. I don't think they employed licensed site professionals. I would just strike licensed site, just put for professionals. I think they employed contractors, emergency responders.
All right.
But otherwise, that's it. That's my only.
Did you get that, Diana?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. All right, motion's been made to accept the minutes. Do I have as amended? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I,
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
You have anything else, Jane? Nope. Okay.
so
Do
I
I
have a
hear a
question.
motion?
No, I do have a question before we go any further.
Yes.
A point of order here, not to delay this any longer. Do we need to come down individually to sign these things? What is the next step?
Well, Jane's got to write the order of conditions, and then, yes, we have to sign them. But she's got to get them written first, which is going to take a day or two.
Well, and even going back to the business that we closed last week as well, I mean, is it, so, I mean, do we need, I guess I'm practically, I want to do whatever it is I need to do next. I just want to know whatever that's going to be and when to do it.
We've been given permission to extend the 21-day requirement to issue the order of conditions. So we just got it today.
I have the letter, Jane, if you want me to read it.
Okay, please.
This is from Chris Lucas. It says, on behalf of the applicant, Florence Ines, Lucas Environmental LLC respectively grants a continuance of the deliberations for the property located on South Street in Foxboro to February 1st, 2021. The applicant also grants a continuance to the next scheduled hearing or March 8th, 2021, whichever is sooner, to allow the commission staff to prepare and issue an order of conditions based upon the vote of February 1st. The applicant grants these continuances with the expectation that the commission will deliberate and vote at the hearing this evening.
Very good. Thank you. So technically, we can sign them at our next meeting. Hopefully, it won't be a Zoom meeting, but maybe it will. But if it is, looks like it will be a Zoom meeting, then we'll have to get into the office and sign them individually.
And is our next meeting still delayed because we have a conflict, or are we on schedule?
Next schedule.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today is President's Day, so that's why we don't have another meeting in February. So our next meeting is March 8th.
So does that answer your question, Peter?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Do I hear a motion? Don't everybody speak at once.
I'll give the motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 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 aye. Thank you and all. Good night.
Good night, all.
Aye.
Aye.
Night.
Good night.